Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this week's Who You Got video. It's supposed to be Who You Got Live. I haven't done it. I'll probably do it sometime this weekend. I don't know because it's a Super Bowl weekend, and that's probably the best time to do it, but we'll find out. And speaking of which, that's how we're going to start out this video. We're going to start talking about the Super Bowl because what? It's Super Bowl weekend. Now, half of you watch it for the commercials, and the other half watch it for the game, for the actual game. I would say the Philly fans and the Chiefs fans are watching it for the game. A lot of you watching it for the commercial, but regardless of regardless of the reason you're watching it, it is the Super Bowl. And in the Super Bowl, we have the Philadelphia Eagles facing the Kansas City Chiefs. And there's a whole lot to do to go to this Super Bowl. I'll cover some of it. I mean, I've been doing more watching everybody else go back and forth and watching all these different plane crashes. And there's another one yesterday. The world is turned upside down. And so I know a lot of times we're not getting a chance to get to see these kinds of things. And that's probably what slowed down the videos a little bit. Don't want to talk politics is going absolutely bananas. Don't want to talk that, but I'm going to get into that, but not on this video, not on this show. That's another show right here, right now. So now that we're here at the Super Bowl, we know the Super Bowl is going to be played on Sunday. We just put out a couple videos. We put out a defensive video for Philadelphia and one for the Chiefs. Now, those videos, I know they're not that interesting because we're talking about the past. The reason why I don't talk about the ones of today is because everybody's doing that, especially the networks. And guess what you're not going to watch? You're not going to go look for another person to talk about Mahomes when there's 50 million people out there talking about Patrick Mahomes today. But at some point, Patrick Mahomes drifts into the past, and then we'll get him. Be that as it may, I still keep the programming at the days of old. And one thing I also have to mention, I mentioned it in the videos, when we're doing these defensive videos, it saddens me to say, the Kansas City Chiefs defenders, I can name 3 or 4 defenders that was much better. But because they don't have the numbers, it becomes an opinion. And that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we let you know in the video is, hey, I know Willie Lanier, Jim Lynch, and Bobby Bell. These dudes were like, you don't get better than them. But there's no stats. If I say that, a lot of Chiefs fans would agree. The rest of the NFL may not. And it's not about agreeance. But I've said this many times before. One of the things that we have to hold on to that other stations are, the 4-letter network, they don't hold to the stats. They go by the shock value. They go by what they saw. And that's great. But me and you could see the same thing and have 2 different opinions on what we saw. And so we're not big enough to just say, it's our opinion that this is who this is. We could. But I'd like to stick with the numbers for now. Maybe in the future, we're going to start reaching back into those old videos from the 70s and the 80s and saying this is who we think is number one. Because trust me, we've got opinions. It's just that I didn't want to burden the audience because when you're looking at it, if you're a fan, you see those numbers and you say, okay, technically he did do more. I know players that did so much that you would think that is the best player ever. But he played 3 seasons or 4 seasons and had an injury, and then he's out the league. And so when you mention the other player with all these numbers, you're like, well, he was better. Well, he ain't played but 3 seasons. If he did that over 10 seasons, fine. But anybody can be really good for a couple seasons. I'm just saying. So that's why we do it that way. That's why we're using those numbers, and we try to put those numbers up there because look, anybody can go onto the websites that we post in the comments, and you can read those numbers for yourself. But isn't it more fun to hear those numbers, see those numbers on the screen, and watch them in some of the highlights? I think that's pretty fun. I've watched a couple myself, and hey, they were pretty entertaining. I was kind of shocked. I wasn't shocked that they were entertaining, but it just was like an out of body experience. It didn't seem like it was me. But I digress. So next I want to talk about predictions. Like everybody's got to have a prediction, right? So you wonder, what is our prediction on? No, just mine. What's my prediction on what the Super Bowl winners this weekend? My answer to that is yes. Hey, I tell you what, you got things like teams that go back to the Super Bowl after losing it. The statistics on how many of them win it the second time. You're not going to want to look at that. I actually pulled that statistic up. You're not going to want to look at it. But in the reverse, teams that match up like this is sure to make you bite all your nails off. Kansas City has a defense, but their offense is their bread and butter. Don't get it twisted. They can say, oh, the defense carried them. Yeah, because they got a coach that knows how to put it in cruise control. He knows how to use just enough to get past these games because he knows he doesn't need anything until now. This is when he needs it. So if you walk into that Super Bowl thinking they don't have an offense, that the defense is what's going to save them, you're foolish. Ask Buffalo. And I don't want to hear this crap about the refs. Brady got so many. They even got a Brady rule. And it's funny. When Brady was getting all this favoritism, and don't get me wrong, I respect Brady and like him. I like him as a person more than I do a player. He's a very good player. He's one of the best. But, I mean, he's just a great guy, right? So this is nothing against him. But when he was getting all those favors, when he was getting all those calls, when Cam Newton was getting headshots, and Brady, if you rolled on the ground and hit his foot, you got a flag in 15 yards, you may get ejected. When that was going on, where was the outcries? I guarantee you the people that's whining now is not the ones who whined when Brady was getting it. So you can stop now. It's not going to work. They don't give a damn anyway. They don't care if you think it's favoritism. The game's still going to get played. The call's already been made. So whenever you get done, that's why when I watched those Super Bowls with the Patriots and anybody else, when the call was made, it didn't matter whether I thought it was a bad call. It wasn't going back. We all know about the call where Brady against the Raiders, we all know that wasn't no forward pass. Everybody on the planet, people in India know. People in China know that one. But still, the call was made. The games went on. He went on to win a Super Bowl. So nothing you can do. So shut up, whiners, about that. Because that's what you're doing. You're whining, right? The game is played. I know it hurts. I know it is. But at the end of the day, they got to play. And if they don't win, then they got to go and play another season and try it again. That's just how this works. So, wipe your face and put your tissue away and get ready to watch a really good Super Bowl, in my opinion, because Philadelphia has one of the most lethal running games you've seen in quite some time. That is the only ones that could have matched them and maybe beat them at it was Baltimore. Baltimore's quarterback is head and shoulders a runner and a thrower over Hurts. It is ain't close. But the running backs, those two, Henry and Saquon, yeah, that to me, that is a matchup. But I knew going into this, no matter what matchup you got, it was going to be nice. So this could have been the Ravens and the Eagles, or it could have been the Chiefs and the Eagles. It didn't matter. It could have been Buffalo and the Eagles. It didn't matter. It was going to be a matchup you want. Because I've seen some Super Bowls that I was like, why are they playing? I will kid you not. So, that being said, with this lethal running game from the Eagles. And with all the things that they bring into this game, with the odds going against the Chiefs, because there's another element here. Every time there was a natural disaster or some kind of United States disaster, for some reason, and I don't think it's a coincidence, but that's just me. The team where the disaster happened happens to win the Super Bowl. New Orleans never won a Super Bowl before and never won a Super Bowl after Katrina. The year after Katrina, 2006 Super Bowl, it wasn't even the year after, it was the same year. It was just the Super Bowl was on the other side of New Year's. That year, they won the Super Bowl, right? Patriots' first Super Bowl was when? 2001. What happened in 2001 just 5 months prior? So I'm just saying when those things happen. So today, there's been 4 or 5, it may even be 6 plane crashes. You got one in Alaska, you got one in Philly, you got one in Baltimore, you got one in or DC, Baltimore DC area is in that in the water between the two. You had one on the tarmac in Seattle, and you had one on the tarmac in Chicago. So you have all these plane crashes within 4 days. It's literally been 4 days. This is what you call a disaster. This is not a natural disaster, but it's historic. I don't think it's ever happened. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's ever happened. But regardless, with this kind of distraction, if it had been just the one in D.C., Philly might have used that as fuel to propel them, give them momentum to win this Super Bowl. But since it's all over the country, and we ain't even got to the Super Bowl yet, you might get a couple more. So, that being said, they're going up against arguably the face of the NFL. Arguably the best system out of 32 teams, the best system in pro football right now is that Kansas City system. They've swapped out offensive coordinators. They've swapped out defensive coordinators. But that quarterback and that coach and that tight end and then that defensive lineman, Chris Jones, have kept them, that nucleus has kept them winning. So we have a chance to see history here. Something Dallas couldn't do. They had an opportunity to get 4 in a row. Had they got that 4 in a row, and we know they could have gotten it because the one they lost, a new coach had just come in. If that new coach doesn't come in and Jimmy Johnson is still sitting there, they win that one and they already won the last one. They would have had 4, possibly 5 in a row. You'd never catch that. But thanks to Jerry Jones, the record is 3. If Kansas City gets 3, Dallas will never get that. So they don't have to worry. I don't think any team will get that. And you still have to watch out because this dude going to be trying to go for 4. So with that being the matchup, we got Kansas City. I'm sorry. I want to take Philly because it's the NFC East. But I can't bet against Mahomes. I can't bet against Andy Reid and Mahomes and now I forgot his name, the tight end. I know Taylor Swift's name. I know his. Kelsey. There we go. Kelsey. Those 3 creates a problem for teams. And they haven't even used Kelsey in the last, I don't know if anybody paid attention. They wasn't using Kelsey in the last 3 or 4 games. They weren't hardly using him. And there was a reason for that. He'll be ready to play this weekend. This is what he's going to be playing for. You got Taylor Swift, you got Kelsey, you got Patrick Mahomes, and you got Andy Reid and his crew. And you got Chris Jones. That's way too much star power. Way too much. I think the Eagles are very good, and I think that if it was Buffalo and the Eagles, I might have picked different, but not Kansas City. We got the Chiefs. So that's our prediction for that one. The next thing, I'm going to skip over to basketball for a second. I mean, we may come back to football. But, I got another subject. Before we leave football, I want to talk about something Cam Newton said that caused a firestorm. I don't. First of all, let me just first say I think I don't agree with 99.9% of what Cam Newton says. I know there's some things behind it, and I know he kind of know what he's talking about, but some of it coming from left field. Like I said, CTE is real. I don't know if he got it, but I'm just saying some of that, I don't know what the hell. But without judging him, I want to speak on what he said about he'd rather have an MVP versus a championship. Stephen A. and them went at him, everybody wants to change his mind and everybody's talking about. I think there's one thing that we all as people need to understand. I'll give you a phrase. Fish cannot see within the water they swim. I'll say it again. Fish cannot see within the water they swim. What that means is Cam Newton never had a championship. Of course he's going to idolize his MVP trophy. It's not because he's trying to be selfish. It is without that MVP trophy, you almost don't know who Cam Newton is. That's what I was saying in another video about these players. The reason why Eric Dickerson, the reason why they want those records to stay is because they'll sink into the obsolete. They'll sink into the oblivion. And they like being relevant, even during these times. Cam Newton should never become irrelevant because he was the type of quarterback you're just never going to duplicate. He was that type of guy. But at the same time, he's not wrong when he says he values an MVP over a championship. He was going for the Super Bowl. He wanted that Super Bowl. But it takes 22 players and a coaching staff to win that Super Bowl. That is a lot of pressure. He could have done everything under the sun and somebody could have dropped the pass. Dallas knew about that in the Super Bowl, I think 74. When the tight end dropped the pass, it might have been a receiver, but somebody dropped the pass in the end zone. Smith, I think it was his last name. Really good receiver, but he just dropped it at the wrong time. Dropped a pass right in his chest in the end zone by himself. And they lost that game. Imagine how Roger Staubach felt. That I've done everything I can possibly do to win this game, and it's up to the players that I'm playing with to do the same. And when one makes a mistake that costs you the game, you are helpless. There's nothing you can do. Thus, when that happens and you win an MVP and they give you accolades and they talk about how great you were, it's all tied to the MVP, not the Super Bowl. So when you're talking from Stephen A's point of view, it sounds like if you didn't win a championship, you're nothing. No. An MVPer won't say that. He'll say, no, that's wrong. I won an MVP. That means I did my job. It means I did everything I could possibly do. The team lost the Super Bowl. Individuals win MVP trophies. He's right. And that's why he feels the way he does. I don't know why adults have these conversations without thinking about it. And instead of Stephen A. trying to convince him that he's wrong, he's not. I'm not saying he's right. He's right in his situation. Patrick Mahomes will never say what he said. Why? Because Patrick Mahomes has Super Bowls. I'll go one step further. No Super Bowl winning quarterback will ever say what Cam Newton said. But just about every MVP trophy winner will say what he said. Now, I know some of them, they're political. They'll say what they think you want to hear. Yeah, I wish I had a championship. That is a championship. When you get the MVP trophy, that's telling the people you are the most valuable player in this league. You have proved a point. That is a championship. Now, it may not be a team championship, but for that player, that is a championship. It's things like that that will get them in the Hall of Fame. It's things like that that every time you're talking about football and history, his name got to come up because he won the MVP. It is a single trophy only given to one person per year. Yeah. So, that argument was asinine to me, but I figured, not very many people going to watch this, but over time, because this is the internet, over time, someone may see this and say, you know what? You're right. He's not wrong. He has a different point of view because he never could get the other, and he needed his whole team to help him get the other. If you took Cam Newton and put him on the Chiefs with Kelsey and all these other players that won these Super Bowls, and they did their job, and Andy Reid as a coach, and they did their job, Cam Newton would have a Super Bowl. He didn't have that. His coaching staff can't hold a candle to the one Kansas City got or the ones the Patriots had. So he needed all that to win a Super Bowl. He only needed him to win a MVP. So think about that. Chew on that for a second. So now we're going to switch over to basketball. Got a couple things. So the first thing is the Lakers' new look. Doncic with LeBron James. Now, I checked, I checked the temperature all over the league to see who's saying what and who thinks what. And I now it's time for me to weigh in. I mean, we're on Who You Got. So, it's an opportunity for me to weigh in. They're talking about how Luka Doncic wasn't in shape and all these reasons. And they also talked about his contract was coming up. They was going to have to pay him the max. All these things caused him to get traded. My opinion about this is this. Oh, one of the other opinions was that they're moving him so they can move LeBron and it becomes his team. If you've been watching Doncic throughout his basketball career, he's offensive minded. You're never going to get defense out of this guy. And you can't. He didn't grow up playing that way. He can play a little defense, but he's not going to stop. His height means he's got to play defense against the LeBron James of the world. He's got to play defense against the ADs and these big boys. And of course, you're in the NBA, so you're going to get the big, athletic, physical, great guys. He ain't going to be able to stop none of them. So, LA is not going to get anything with him and LeBron playing together but notoriety. I don't think that's the goal. I think they're moving LeBron. LeBron's probably going to head up the coast there. He's going to wind up in the Warriors. I just feel like it. He may not. But they're going to have to give up. They're going to have to blow that team up. And they're going to have to build around him. Listen, how many teams can have Kyrie, Thompson, Doncic, and there's somebody else on that squad, and can't win it? And then how many teams would trade their best player right after the championship game? Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of things ain't being said. But what I will say is this, LA gonna have to blow that up. They're gonna have to blow that up. You need a Kobe, you need a Shaq, you're gonna need some stuff around him. Because he is a offensive juggernaut. But he is a defensive liability. And they say it's because he's not in shape. And that could be true. And he could make that an untrue statement too. He could turn it around. I'm not saying he could never ever play defense. I'm saying that I don't think he plan on it. I don't think he wants to. And let's face it. Anybody coaching against him knows that the best defense is great offense. If you put a guy on Doncic that's scoring as much as he is, you're going to get the game. Because in order for Doncic to score, he's got to get on the offensive end. They got to save his energy for that. If you down there working him on the defensive end and you're scoring on him, you're taking away from what he's going to do on the other end of the court. So, and you're also taking the ball out of other players' hands because I noticed Doncic I don't know about other people, but Doncic don't pass a lot. He doesn't. Again, that's not to say he's not a great player. He is a great, great player. But the NBA has hundreds of guys playing, and all of them are in the NBA. They're all stars, and some of them are brighter stars. And he's up there with the best of them, but he ain't the best out there. And he ain't that. but he is a great player. I was shocked, like everybody else, that Dallas gave him up. But after seeing the moves that was made, I wasn't so shocked because he is playing with Kyrie. And he is playing with Thompson and a few other players. And with Kyrie at the helm, I ain't shocked he got moved because they was going to have to move one of the two. Because I don't think the players that played with him could appreciate his lack of defense. So if you're not going to play both ends of the court, you're going to lose some teams. You're going to get traded around. You'll become a journeyman. So that's the first one. The second change that drew ire was Jimmy Butler. They finally let him go. Now, the last video I made, which was like 2 years ago. No, it was a week ago, a week and a half. The last video I made, I was talking about why Miami is holding him playing the ego trip game. Well, they let him go, and they let him go to the Warriors. They let him go to a team that can, with one or two pieces, can become a championship threat. And they let him go to that. I thought they was going to put him in NBA hell, like Detroit. I know Detroit got a championship or two, but they ain't had one in the last 2,000 years. So I thought they was going to send him someplace like that to kind of punish him, but they didn't. They sent him to the Warriors, and the Warriors is only a couple moves from a championship. So I found that pretty pleasantly surprised. I'm interested to see how this works. I'm sure everybody's going to be interested. I'm hoping the Warriors understand that they got a guy that can blow up at any moment, and then they have the same problems. The difference in the Warriors and the Heat is that guy up there has a different type of ego. Jimmy, if he sneezes too loud, he's going to get shipped out. He's going to get traded. Ask, what was that guard name that thought he was Curry? I didn't even know. I think they woke him out of his sleep and traded him. That guy up in San Francisco, he's got a hair trigger. If you're not one of the top three in there, he traded Thompson. I mean, if he trade Thompson, he'll trade any of y'all. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Because if Jimmy's smart, he understands he's on the other side of his career, and he'll play. He's with a good team. He's with good guys. He can play. Now, the problem that you're going to run into is him, the mesh between him and Mr. Ego. And you know who I'm talking about. The center. Yeah. So if them two can keep from going at each other, then you got something in San Francisco. But if them two clash, that's WW4. So I'm hoping that Jimmy Butler says, "Look, I don't want no smoke. I came here to play and to win and to do the things we need to do. I'm not gonna let you punk me or check me out in public, but I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna do my job. And I'm gonna become a good member of the team." I'm hoping that's how, that's maturity. That's what that is. And a lot of times, that's what players have to overcome. They have to overcome their immaturity so they can become the best that they can be. So that's gonna be an interesting look after this All-Star weekend. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. And so the last thing that I'm gonna mention is the videos that we just put out. Just put out a couple videos. We're only doing a couple a week. The defense for the Eagles and the defense for the Chiefs. And I did cover that earlier when I said that there's some players that come from the 70s and the 80s that actually, let's be real, they're better. Bobby Bell, Jim Lynch, Willie Lanier, these guys ain't got nothing on them. But it was a different time. The numbers don't support it. The video does. But I can find videos of these new players now doing some treacherous things. Like, for instance, if you took them same three players and you put them up against Reggie White, they don't win. They don't win. And with what they could do in the 70s and the 80s, if Reggie White could do that, he would tear the league down. So, it's actually it's good conversation for football. It's really good conversation. So, if you check out the Who You Got channel, well, shoot, if you're watching these videos, you probably do. So, check out the videos, like, share, and subscribe to the videos, whatever. Uh, if you are a member, to all our members, we really appreciate you. It really helps. And I'm sure you hear this 1,000 times whenever you're watching videos on YouTube, but it's awesome when you guys click subscribe. And it's even more awesome when you click a like. So, like, share, and subscribe. And that's all I have for this week on Who You Got Live. Maybe I'll see you again with a live version. I'm still trying to work out the kinks and get it going so that I can do it and be efficient with it. I've watched a few. I'm kind of liking the whole live thing. So we'll see. I'll let you know. Have a good night. And I need to say before I forget that